off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
No, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself. I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin. Would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. We are live on Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we currently sit at 100 and Billy Carroll of subscribers. He wore the jersey number 25 during the Islanders dynasty of between 1981 to 1984. Yes. So it is an Islanders reference. It's just an Islanders reference from days of yore. You can also subscribe to the audio shortly after that. Like the video, subscribe to our channels, share with your friends. We would really appreciate it. We say good morning, Sean. How are you today?
Good morning, Kevin. I'm doing all right. It's a little bit cloudy and a little bit rainy here in Calgary, but we've got some awesome hockey news to talk about, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was raining here. Now it's sunny-ish with some clouds, so it's probably going to be a combination of rain and sun and, all those other things. High of 19 today, according to the weather people. So, we'll get into the news of yesterday that we didn't have a chance to get into. Also, if you have any questions and comments, please feel free to let us know about that, and we'll go from there. But the New York Saints eliminated the Boston Bruins last night, eliminating them from the playoffs, advancing for the second straight year to play the Tampa Bay Lightning in one of the semifinals. Not sure if this is going to be for the I'm assuming they'll play for the Whales. I'm going to assume that because it'll be Colorado or Vegas that will be in the West.
I don't think they're actually awarding those trophies this year.
Oh, well, that's weird. Okay, well,
it's because it's because of all of this, right? We've got in the other one, it's going to be Montreal, who's an Eastern team, face off against either Vegas or Colorado. So
they can have the Clarence Campbell.
Yeah,
they
from what I've heard is they're not actually going to be awarding those trophies this year.
Yeah, and then but they are anyway. Sidetracked. The Islanders and Tampa Bay are playing. The Islanders are back for the second consecutive year, at least getting to the semifinals. Do you know? Here's a fun trivia question, Sean. And the way that I asked this, you'll probably guess right away. But who has the most goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs?
I believe it's Colorado, but I think it's either Colorado or the Islanders. I can't remember who it is, but it's either Colorado and then Islanders have the better goals per game, or it's swapped.
Yeah, let's look for sure. But yes, it is the New York Islanders. They've scored more. I think they've scored four or more goals in 8 of their games already. I saw that stat. Jean-Gabriel Pageau is 4th in playoff scoring with 13 points, behind salary cap hider Nikita Kucherov, and also salary cap hider tied with Steven Stamkos. And also he's tied with Nathan McKinnon and right now with 13 points and 1 point ahead of Braden Point. the Islanders are a fascinating team because they don't have a superstar. They don't have a guy that we can go and say this is a much watch Islander team. This is much watch when you go see the New York Islanders, but they're about as team as a team could be.
Yeah, but there's also Matthew Barzal. I think he's must watch as a skater. I love watching him skate with the puck and skate around the zone, and he's becoming very smart with the puck now. I remember one play in particular last night caught my eye, and it's a simple play that I think a lot of young players don't do. And then when they start making that play, that's when you know they're starting to learn how to play at the NHL level properly. And that's just you've skated into the zone with speed, but the defense has held the middle, so you haven't found a way to deke into the middle or pass into the middle to create a good scoring opportunity. You skate around the net, and then a lot of the players will try and continue to skate or force a pass or something like that. Where what happens is you end up playing high in the offensive zone around the blue line above the circles, and then that's a risky place to play. You can have it's high reward, high risk, but in the playoffs you kind of have to pick and choose your battles. And what Matt Barzal did was he dumped the puck back into the corner and let his line mates go in, get the puck, and they were able to control the puck and keep the puck in the offensive zone a lot longer than they could potentially if you're playing it up higher in the zone. And that's a step of maturity and understanding when you should be trying to force things and when you should be cycling it back down lower in the zone and trying to just grind it out and play some half court hockey.
Yeah, the Islanders are certainly overall a mature team. We're seeing some maturity from Matthew Barzal. He hasn't always been known to be the most consistent player in the National Hockey League, and I'm not saying that because I'm being critical of him. That's been a perception that has been created of him, and I think that's something that Barry Trotz has been working on. But it's just for me, I just appreciate the team approach, even in the third period. Although Boston got that one goal, that period literally almost took close to as 20 minutes of a period as you can get to literally 20 minutes. Like that was a quick period. Just
that was a clinic.
It really was a clinic, wasn't it? Like
but up until I believe 2 minutes to go in the third period, I think Boston had 2 or 3 shots on net.
Yeah.
It's quite. I saw that stat and I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. That like Islanders only had 7 shots total in that period. Boston ended up with 5, but when you're up by multiple goals, that's a you're up. That's a perfect third period, especially in an elimination game. Low risk, high reward because you win and you move on.
Yeah. And I think that their defense as a defensive core, I don't want to say underrated, but I don't know where. I don't think I think highly of them. Not that again, if we're gonna bitch about something that Brad Treliving did, I'm just gonna say it again. Noah Dobson could have been a Calgary Flame. So if you Flame fans, if you want to be a little bit outraged at something, I'm just saying. An unprotected lottery pick from the New York Islanders. If you want to complain, there's something right there. Have at it, Twitter.
Dobson's really stepped up. I remember he was one of the defensemen I wanted the Canucks to pick when they ended up picking Quinn Hughes. And last year it was interesting the development that the Islanders development approach the Islanders took with Noah Dobson. He was still eligible to play in the QMJHL last year, but they kept him up and they worked on his physical skills and his physical strength and all that, and built him up physically to make him a little more physically mature because he was a little slender. And I think that's players are coming up and they're skilled enough to play in the NHL, but they're not physically mature enough to stand up to the rigors. And because they're skilled enough and they're making big impacts, they're getting worn down, I think. And I really liked how Barry Trotz and Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders organization handled Noah Dobson's development last season with that play, because he played every once in a while, but a lot of the reason why they kept him up there was to find a way, was to make sure that he was up there practicing, but they also were able to control his off ice workouts so that they could build up his body and make him a big defenseman that can stand up to the rigors of playoff hockey. Because he's 6'4", and Cap Friendly has him listed as 184 pounds. I'm pretty sure he's a little bit bigger than that now. And he's going to be one hell of a defenseman. And then you throw that into, you've got 26-year-old Ryan Pulock, who I don't think people realize how solid a defenseman he is. Another WHL alumni and product. And then Adam Pelech as well, also 26 years old. So they've got some defensemen that aren't young, but they're not old, that are really stepping up and playing well for them.
And Stephen Mayfield is another guy Scott. Sorry, I don't know why I was reading to Stephen. Maybe
you pulled it, Devin.
Hi, Devin. I'm just saying hello to Devin out there. But Scott Mayfield, he's another one. Where is Jean-Gabriel Pageau in terms of your defensive forward? Where do you have him? I mean, he did a very good job as Patrice Bergeron, and I think that, but I'm not going to say that he's better than Bergeron, first of all.
Oh no, he's not. I wouldn't even put him in the upper echelon, but he's very good, and he's got that. In my opinion, he's got that clutch gene that he steps up when needed. And because he plays with the Islanders and with Barry Trotz's structured system, it really fits his game, and I think that's what elevates him up, especially in the playoffs. He's a clutch player. Like, you go back to his time in Ottawa, same thing. Like, when they got to the playoffs, he was one of their big. He was one of their. He scored a couple big overtime goals for them. It's that you can't teach clutch, and you can. A lot of people sort of laugh at it, but I honestly think it is something that's there. It is something that some players have and some players don't. Some players step up when the pressure gets higher and the pressure gets hotter. Like, it's just some players do and some players don't. Pageau steps up.
The Islanders have found a way to find those type of players. They've done a really good job. You look at Jordan Eberle as an example. Brock Nelson's a guy, another guy that finds ways to step up. He scored a couple goals yesterday. I sort of compare them a little bit to Lou Lamoriello's former Stanley Cup winning team, New Jersey Devils, because they got kind of some similar players. They brought in Stéphane Richer. They brought in Claude Lemieux. They started to bring in guys that not only knew how to win, but they contributed to wins. And I think that's sort of, they're building sort of a similar team in the island. I mean, Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, that was a great acquisition again in the trade deadline. I think we did a poll, and I think we concluded that this was the best acquisition out of all of the Eastern Division teams. I think it was. I think we agreed that, did we not?
I think it was it was close. I believe. I think I was on the Taylor Hall, because I thought that the bigger boom factor was Taylor Hall, and yeah, he did step up. But the Islanders have a couple players who have, especially Palmieri, have fit in well with that team.
Yeah,
and I think it's I think we do have. I think the other thing with that though is the system allows for that as well. I think we have to talk about that as well. The system allows for these players to they break down the offense, the other team coming in offensively, and allow for these players to have a bit more, have some offensive breaks. And I think that's something that a lot of teams need to look at going forwards, is how the Islanders are breaking down and defending and creating offensive chances off of that.
Yeah.
Because you look at I know one of Brock Nelson's goals was off of a break because of a good defensive play. So and that's just a pattern with this team. They're so well coached, so they play the system that Barry Trotz has set out really well, and because of that, they're able to counter attack, and they've got shooters that can do that. They've got players who have just enough speed and a really good shot to take advantage of these odd man breaks that are created from good defensive play. Yeah, and as well as their defense core is they can move the puck. They're solid defensively, but they move the puck smartly, and they move the puck efficiently up the ice. With, like I said, we have already talked about Noah Dobson, who leads the defense in the Islanders' defense in points this postseason with let's see here, with 7 assists and 7 points. And then you've got Mayfield and Kulak with 5, and Leddy with 5. They're getting production from the back end, and they're just getting good passing and smart passing up the ice from the back end. Yeah,
they're not a team that has a Hart, like we're going to talk about the Hart Trophy nominees. It's certainly not that, but it's something a lot of teams have to watch. And the other thing, just quickly with the Islanders too, is Lou Lamoriello, and then we'll get to some of the comments that we're getting to. Lou Lamoriello just continues to do Lou Lamoriello things. He has a way of doing things, and I know you and Devin, I don't know if you would fit in the New York Islanders, because you would have to shave your beards, and I don't know if that you guys could do that, especially Devin and what he does with his beard. That he's been open about. What you guys both do with your beard, I don't know if you would be a fit, but he has a way of doing things, and it works. It works for him.
Take away the fact that I'd have to shave my beard. If I go back to how I played hockey, it wasn't very good. But in terms of style, if I had the skill, I'd fit into the Lou Lamoriello, Barry Trotz, old school defense first, defense first mentality, and that's working for them.
Yep, and that's it. That's a mindset that Lou Lamoriello has had all along. Like you look back, and I know that those teams were boring, but you look back at the Stanley Cup Jersey Devil teams when they were successful. They had Larry Robinson in as a coach, of course, Jacques Lemaire. He brought in a little bit of that old Montreal Canadian style into the island too, and it's working for him. It's a, we talk about culture. I would love to Lou Lamoriello I wouldn't be able to play with Lou Lamoriello because I wasn't good enough, beard or not, but I would like to just sit in and just listen to how Lou Lamoriello conducts his business. That would be something I would love to do.
Well, this tweet I saw last night showing that Lou Lamoriello's been in a conference final or a semi, like the third round, in 5 different decades. That's insane.
Yeah,
he is one of the best, if not the best GM in NHL history.
Yeah, I would agree. Jeremiah Maxwell has this comment as well. Both series clinching goals since 2017. Aho and Beauvillier, how did I do? Have 6. Gunsel Bergeron 7, and Brock Nelson has 9 series clinching goals. Yeah, and then we had Sean Rydell. Thanks for all the comments. Soroka had 4 wins in round 1. Varley had all 4 wins in round 2.
The two-headed monster in net. I was actually looking at that before. Probably right as Sean was as putting those comments in, and yeah, the two-headed monster in net's huge as well. Like you go with who's hot, and it was Sorokin in round 1, and it was Varlamov in round 2, and who knows who it will be in round 3. But I think that it's going to be a fun matchup against Tampa Bay because they're both very well coached. Tampa plays a little more high tempo offensive style, while you've got the defensive first mentality with the Barry Trotz coached Islanders. And it's going to be it's the old immovable object, unstoppable force versus the immovable object type matchup. When you look at the offensive abilities of Tampa with Kucherov, Stamkos, Point, name more, and then you've got like I said, the very well structured defensive Islanders trying to stop them. It's going to be a very fun, very fun series to watch, and you've got two absolutely Tampa Bay is an underrated fan base, especially in the playoffs. They bring the atmosphere. They bring the noise at the Tampa Bay rink, and so it's just going to be a very loud series as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun as well. And Jeremiah brings up this point as well. Tampa beat the Islanders in 6, but Trotz has some 6-6 with the 2018 Caps. And I think there's so much that it is going to be a really fascinating series. I think just on so many levels. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. And it leads to our poll question, which is, if you can go on podcast_hockey to vote for this, is which coach of the two, John Cooper or Barry Trotz, would be a better fit for as head coach of the Canadian Olympic team? And I don't know if Sean has pulled up the results yet. Yes, he has. And so far, 55% say John Cooper. I haven't decided yet. I got to be honest, I don't know, but because I think that there's a legitimate argument for both of them.
Yeah, I went with John Cooper. I want both of them on the coaching staff, but I went with John Cooper because you look at what I want to see a little bit more up. He still puts a good structure in place, but I want the players to be a little, the forwards and defense to be a little more willing to be more offensive, because that's more entertaining. Even though I still love the way Barry Trotz coaches and all that, but I went with John Cooper just for entertainment factor.
Yeah. So vote on that. Podcast_hockey will retweet from there. And I'll just retweet it from my account, where you can follow me at KEVOLE. Now let's get to Boston. We're not huge. I don't hate. I try not to hate teams, but it's safe to say that we're not here to. We're not lovers of the Boston Bruins, but we'll be fair to them here. In terms, or I'll be fair. And then the first thing that I do want to say is, I think, because you don't let, I mean, you're going to say fuck Boston. I know that. And so I wanted to save that space for you.
That's true. I'm still not over 2011, and I don't think I ever will be. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions, including, as Sean has just asked, do you think Rask is in Boston? I think I wonder if we are with the Boston Bruins. I wonder if this is a team that is on the way down. I think you have of course the Rask situation, as Sean has asked. I personally, just my first impression is I don't think he's going to stay in Boston. That's me. That's my opinion. I think that their core is getting up there. Although look, as much as you can hate Brad Marchand, and there's every reason to hate him, the guy just fine. He scores goals at times. Patrice Bergeron's still an elite Hall of Famer type center that will be on the Olympic team. David Pastrnak can still score goals.
Pasternak's still young though, right? He's 25. We forget about that. He's been around the league for a long time, but he's still 25 years old.
But I guess my point though is this is a team that I think does need, around that, they have a pretty talented core that's a bit aging, other than Pastrnak and Charlie McAvoy. It's getting up there. And I think even last night you saw that defense is not the same as what the Bruins used to be, and
They
especially
were missing Kevin Miller and more importantly Brandon Carlo.
Sure.
But you're right. I've looked at that blue line, and I just, outside of McAvoy, and you can make an argument for Grzelcyk. I don't know if they've got the pieces in there. They have to find a way to change that up going into next year. I don't think Tuukka Rask is staying. I think he's been treated not properly by the Boston fan base, in my opinion. And I think we are going to see them go to the young kid, Jeremy Swayman, going into next year. Maybe they'll bring back Halak, or maybe they bring back another veteran. But I think the Tuukka Rask era in Boston is over. I think we talked about how the Carolina Hurricanes have have something in Alex Nedeljkovic. Maybe he goes down into a hockey market that is underrated, but he would also be, I don't think he'd be the center of attention down there. And I think that's something that he would like. So if he decides that he wants to continue playing, because I think retirement is also an option. He is 34. But if he wants to continue playing, I don't think it's going to be in Boston.
Yeah, I could see a few options for Tuukka Rask out there. I think Carolina, Carolina's one of them I could see. I could also maybe it's an outside chance, but I will put Seattle on the list there. There's a team north of you that has cap space. I'm just saying they do have cap space, and I
think with Edmonton. I think they're quite happy with Mike Smith, and Koskinen's on a deal that's unmovable. So I think they're stuck with those two goalies, or not stuck with. I think they're quite happy bringing back Mike Smith. Tuukka Rask isn't the long term solution up there. I think you're going with, if you're going to go with a short term solution up in Edmonton. I think sticking with Mike Smith is the better option, and then waiting until that Koskinen deal runs out, and then opening the books up and hopefully getting the right goaltender, I think is what they're looking at up in Edmonton. But
Pittsburgh could be an option as well.
Pittsburgh is very much an option. I think you look at, maybe he goes back to who drafted him in Toronto.
Yeah, that's a possibility. That certainly is a possibility.
Freddie Anderson, I don't think is coming back. I think you do have something in Jack Campbell, but I think having a good veteran 1B in Toronto is something to look at. We'll have to bring this up when Devin's on, and if John's still watching, I'd love to hear his take on that. But yeah, you look at that be an option. Chicago as well, depending on what they have, the steps they want to take.
Colorado if they lose Grubauer.
If they lose Grubauer, yeah. But yeah, I think after that it starts to thin out again. But there's options there. Like I said, Carolina would be I think a great fit if he wants to try and finish his career off with another deep cup run, as well as Toronto or who else did we say? Pittsburgh. Those are all sort of teams that are on the back ends of their, or not Toronto, but Pittsburgh's on the back end of their sort of competitive time, but they're all sort of in win now mode. So he would fit in as a 1A, 1B goaltender in all those situations, which would sort of fit, I think, where he is at as in his career.
Yeah, that's a fascinating situation. The other one is Taylor Hall, and if there's a simple answer to this. Do you re-sign Taylor Hall? The answer is yes. I think, but the bigger question is for how long. And even if you're Taylor Hall, how do you handle this? Do you go and do the rebet? Do you rebet on yourself with a 1-year deal and see what happens, or do you commit long term in Boston?
I don't think you commit long term in Boston, but I think a 2-year deal would make a lot of sense. Because if you look at where Boston's at with their cap situation, and they need they have to figure out what to do with David Krejci this offseason as well. Patrice Bergeron is 35 years old and has 1 more year left on his contract. Marchand signed till 2025, but he's 33. I think you are looking at a 1 or 2 year sort of window in Boston where they can still be competitive while still sort of slowly trickling in some more younger players. And Taylor Hall can be part of that. And I think if he signs a 1 or 2 year deal in Boston, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
He also knows that they're a well-run team, and he's been around the block with teams that just are at best not well run, at worst tire fires. So I think he's going to want to have some stability in terms of being on a team that he knows is going to be putting its best foot forwards, trying to be competitive, and not necessarily being a middling team or a rebuilding team or a team that just isn't well run. I think so. I think the way he played in Boston this year, since the trade, I think it solidifies it. I would be surprised if he doesn't re-sign in Boston for. I honestly think if he's made a lot of money in his career, and I think he hasn't had much success, so I think he's going to be looking for success more than money in the next few years.
Yeah. Just we sort of brought this up off air, but I think a target that if you're the Bruins, I think you definitely need to improve the defense. But one target, what about the idea? Let's throw a name out there for Boston. What about the name Mark Giordano?
I think you look at their blue line, and I think they need to get. They're trying to get younger. They've got 23-year-old Charlie McAvoy. They got 27-year-old Matt Grizzlick, 24-year-old Brandon Carlo. They've got a few other defensemen trying to break in that mid-20s range. I think adding a veteran defenseman who can sort of help things out and steady things, I think would be an interesting ad. And with Giordano with 1 year left on his contract, it would fit that window. But if I'm Boston, I'm not taking Giordano at that straight up at that ticket price at over $6 million for him. I'd want some salary retention to make that work, especially because you've got they've got 26.9 million, just over 26.9 million in cap space. But like I said, we've talked about they need to figure out what they're doing with their goaltending. They need to because let's see here. Yeah, Swayman's there, but you still need to get a good veteran to be his 1A, 1B. Brandon Carlo needs a new deal, and he's going to get a significant raise. You've got Taylor Hall to sign. You've got David Krejci to figure out what you want to do with. Andre Kasha, I know they're quite happy with him. He's 25 and needs a new deal, so he fits. They're getting a little bit younger, so and then you still need to fill out that blue line as well. So over $6 million for Giordano, I think is a little steep of a price, a cap hit to pay for them when they're in their situation. But if they can work a deal out where Calgary retains for some of that salary, I think it would be a good pickup for them.
Yeah. And I mean, there's other great pieces there. Craig Smith is a good player. They've got you've got the prospect in Jeremy Swayman. They do have some pieces there, but that window is closing a little bit in Boston. And I think that there's a few fans with a bit of a bigger smile on their face with that. But it's going to be it's interesting with you got where Montreal is, Toronto is, you got Florida coming up with Ottawa. That window for Boston will close here pretty quick, I think.
And just to follow up, they're saying Kasha did deal with some some injuries this year, but he's still 25 and has some upside there. And but it was also Nick Ritchie is the other guy that they have to look at finding a new contract for as well. And he's in that age range that they're no longer in that late 30s, late 20s, early 30s that their big core is in right now. So
yeah. All right. Anything else with the Bruins?
No, like I said, they've just got some big decisions to make in terms of which direction they want to go. Are they going to try and go one more year, bring back Krejci, bring back Taylor Hall, figure out what they want to bring in one or two more pieces on that blue line, and figure out what's going on in that net. It's going to be a busy offseason for them.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. There is some other news. Let's get to the jerseys behind you, the jerseys behind me. The Vancouver Canucks made some coaching news yesterday. Noel Brown is out. Ian Clark is back. Brad Shaw has been signed as an assistant coach, as well as let's break this down slowly here. Let's start with Ian Clark, and then we'll go to Brad Shaw and what is lost in Noel Brown. And there's a couple of other moves in there as well. But we'll start with Ian Clark.
Bringing back Ian Clark is huge. His impact on goaltenders like Sergei Bobrovsky, Jacob Markstrom. Now we're seeing it with Thatcher Demko. Is huge. And you even listen to Mikey DiPietro talk about how, he didn't get to play many games this year, but he got to work with Ian Clark almost on a daily basis, and he really enjoyed that. And everyone speaks highly of him. And he's also someone who is good at scouting goaltenders. So don't write off Arthur Silovs as a goaltender in the future to watch for the Canucks. But bringing him back was huge. It was a goal. The way I look at goaltenders now is that everyone calls them bullshit and voodoo and magic, and you just don't know. It's because it's such a different position than everything else. We can look at stats and we can look at the eye test with players and see how they play. And you can unless you played net, you don't really understand it. And I think we're starting. The teams are starting to give the goalies the love they need and deserve, and to be able to develop them and to understand them as well. I don't think we understood goaltenders and what makes a good goaltender up until maybe the last couple years, because it's just we weren't developed. They weren't being developed properly. They weren't being identified properly, and I think I think we need to see more from. And we need to see more development that way. And who's on the leading edge of that? Ian Clark. So I think bringing him back is huge for the Canucks. They just invested in Thatcher Demko. They needed to keep him, and they found a way, and they gave him 5 years. So they gave him more term than Jim Benning and Travis Green, which says a lot in my opinion. And it says that they understand the importance of his role and the importance of making sure that you're taking care of your goaltenders.
And then they bring in Brad Shaw from the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's a new name there to help with the defense. And a significant.
He's actually going to be more of an all-round guy. He's going to be. If you listen to him talk on 650, he's going to be working more with the forwards than the defense. Noel Baumgartner is still the go-to guy to work with the defense, but I think it's gonna be a lot more of a collaborative effort with this new coaching group. If you look at how it's set up, they got rid of Noel Brown, who was essentially the forwards coach, and now I think you're gonna see Jason King on the bench. I think Brad Shaw is gonna be more of a eye in the sky, along with the other hire, Kyle Gustafson. I think those two guys are going to be eyes in the sky, and I think they're going to have. I really hope they've got a system for communication from up there down to the bench as well, because Bradshaw has history of coaching and helping develop good young defensemen. In Columbus, he's worked with Zach Werenski and Seth Jones, and we all seen how good both those guys can be. So I think we're going to see him work with not only Quinn Hughes, but don't count out what he can do with Jack Rathbone as well. Let alone Jet Wu coming up, and maybe even Brogan Rafferty. Like there's some younger or some borderline defensemen that could really benefit from having a new set of eyes. Someone comes in, he's very technical and analytical with how he looks at things. So I think he's going to be a very, very, very good ad for the Canucks in terms of being able to develop their young players, especially on the defensive side of the game.
And I also think it's interesting that Bradshaw sort of has developed his own analytic. He is not from an analytics background. He does not have that background, but he decided that he wanted to study it and learn it, and has developed his own ideas around it. So that's a very unique situation. I would not be surprised at one point, I'm not saying today, obviously not today, but Bradshaw may be a name that you hear as a head coach in the National Hockey League. And he was a pretty darn good NHL defenseman as well. And he had some good things to say about Quinn Hughes. And it's a good hire, I think. There was a lot of talk about the name Kirk Muller, but it just seems like Bradshaw is the right fit at the right time there. And Kyle Gustafson, I do think that it's important to bring up. He's been with the Portland Winterhawks for years. He's worked with Travis Green before. So for those that follow the WHL, and by the way, I do write for the dubnetwork.ca. You can check out some of my articles there. # shameless plug. But he's a guy that's come up. Congratulations to him. But I think he's going to be a guy on the staff as well. And Jason King is being in. Nolan Baumgartner remains. Daryl Seward is the video coach. And also, not on the Canucks Twitter picture handle, is Chris Higgins, as was retained in his role as well. And I actually, I do think that that's more significant than people think, because this is a guy that, from Chris Higgins' perspective, I remember I'm going to go back to my history days here, Sean. Back where Dion Phaneuf was traded from the Flames to the Leafs, and the Flames were just in complete mess. The Flames brought in Chris Higgins, but he ended up moving on to Vancouver in that offseason, or the trade deadline. I think
he was acquired at the trade deadline in 2011. Was a huge part of that run.
Yes, he was part of that. Yes, he was part of that run. That's right. But he's also a former Flame. But I know he didn't play long in Vancouver. But I think that, this is what he is doing. What I think the Sedins are planning to do in terms of just learning the business and growing and developing. And I do think that this is a significant keep for the Vancouver Canucks.
It is. He played 6 years with the Canucks.
Wait, why do I have him? Oh, you know why? Oh, okay. Because I remember him. I remember him for a short time in 2011, and then my brain blanked.
Yeah, he started off with the Canadiens, put up 3 20-goal seasons, and then went to the Rangers, was traded to the Flames, started the 2010-2011 season in Florida, went to Vancouver, and then he finished his career in the Vancouver organization, and he's been a fantastic ad in terms of player development, because that's sort of his role. When everyone was wringing their hands about whether or not Jack Rathbone would sign with the Canucks, because he was a it's a good thing I've forgotten his name. Judd Brackett. Yeah, he was a Judd Brackett draft pick, and someone who was a sort of like, they were family friends, or they had some sort of connection there, and Canucks fans were really hand wringing about that. But Chris Higgins stepped in and has been someone who is the liaison between prospects who aren't in, say, AHL or or players on the NHL team, working with them there, as well as doing some skills development with the pro players as well. So especially with the AHL team moving to Abbotsford, making sure that they still kept Chris Higgins in that role is very key.
Yeah. So a good day for Vancouver overall.
I just want to talk about Newell Brown though before we get going here. The Canucks power play was very stagnant and very predictable a lot of the time last year. A lot of that sort of was due to Petey being injured for a long time, a lot of the season, but it was also that beforehand. But we're also talking about the guy who really brought in the drop pass into the NHL. And before people start yelling and screaming about the drop pass not being a good tool, it is. But the problem is it's overused. It's not most of the time it's used is not done effectively and properly. But when it's done, you enter the zone with speed. You enter the zone with your the defense on the back foot. It's when done properly, it's fantastic. And almost every team does it, and if not every team does it in some way or another. And Newell Brown has been a part of multiple power plays that were near the top of the league, if not the top of the league. He's a very good coach. He'll land on his feet. I think there needed to be a bit of a change, a bit of a new voice in the room. And I think the combination of Bradshaw and Jason King to sort of oversee that, a new look power play, I think should create some better results than we saw last year, as well as hopefully a healthy Pettersson. I was critical of Newell Brown, but I also know that he's a very smart guy and he'll land on his feet. He'll land on his feet, getting to coach another really good team with some skilled players on the power play. But it's not a slam dunk move here to get rid of Newell Brown, but it's I think a new fresh outlook on in terms of what they need to do on the power play and offensively. I think should see some good results next season.
Sure. Before we move on, the other thing I do want to make a little bit of a quick connection here with the Flames in the sense of not Newell Brown, but Daryl Sutter was brought in mid-season, but I would not be surprised if we do see some change in the assistant coach, just because I think Daryl Sutter would probably obviously want some of his staff there. I haven't heard anything one way or the other, but that is a possibility. And I'm not connecting that Newell Brown will join the Flames. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that's another place to watch for assistant coaches going forward.
I'm surprised we haven't heard anything about that just yet. I think a fresh voice that's been outside of Alberta and the Flames organization would be huge for them. You look at that coaching staff, and we'll take out the goaltending coaches because it's a little bit different. But you've got Ray Edwards, and he's been in the organization for years. Marty Jelena, again, and Ryan Huska, they've all been in the organization for years, and I think it's time to bring in some fresh eyes, a new voice, and to sort of tie this in with why the Canucks brought in Bradshaw is that Travis Green talked about how he does think things differently than he does. He does have a different idea of what needs to be done, and he needs to have a dissenting voice every once in a while to be able to take that next step. Like we talk about just the locker room, about being a little bit stale or needing a shakeup with the Flames. I think I think you have to look at that from top to bottom with the organization. They've replaced between Hartley, Gulletson, Peters, Jeff Ward, and Daryl Sutter, how many of the assistants are still around through all of that, or even through 2 or 3 of the coaches? I think it's time to really shake up. That would also be a big shakeup, is if you start changing assistant coaches. You've already done it with Daryl, the head coach, but I think it's time to start looking at that with the assistant coaches as well.
Well, you know if Daryl, with that contract that he was given, I think he was given a bit more leeway than the other coaches that they brought in, than the Gullitzons and the Peters. That I think he's going to have some say in who his assistant coaches were, as opposed to previous coaches that did not have that opportunity. So I'm just saying, I think that's a story going forward that I wouldn't be surprised if we see a change there. I'm not trying to make sure that I'm not saying we need to make sure that we have Flames content in there, but I was just saying that I think it's, I do think that there's a story there that I thought, yeah.
Oh, I've got a story. I've got some breaking news.
Wait, I don't have my breaking news thing. Well, breaking news.
I'm going to pull up a tweet from Mike Chambers of the Denver Post talking about how Avs head coach Jared Bednar is not at the T-Mobile Arena this morning because of an irregularity in his COVID test.
Oh, whoa.
Game 6, Avs Knights tonight, and the Avs could be playing, I'm not saying they will, but could be playing without their head coach on the bench. That could be that's big.
Yeah, that's news there for sure. Yeah, we'll have to monitor that as the day goes on. Keep an eye out for that. I'm not gonna make any speculations at this point, because that's at first I saw the tweet, so I'd have to hear more. But interesting, yeah. Let's move. We got a couple of some other news items I wanted to just get into here. The Hart Trophy nominees are out. It's Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, Nathan McKinnon. I don't think there's any snubs here, really. First of all,
no. Well, the Hart Trophy is such a subjective trophy where you could someone could probably come up with some, but I think you've got the three of the best there. And but honestly, this was one where you kind of were like, can we just announce Connor's won it?
If this isn't unanimous, it's ridiculous, but it won't be unanimous. But it is Connor McDavid. There's no debate in my mind about it. I'm not disputing the seasons that Austin Matthews and Nathan McKinnon had, but what Connor McDavid had to work with, and we're even having the chat is actually conversing about the Pacific Division right now as we're speaking. What the Oilers, you saw in the playoffs. I mean, without McDavid, even with McDavid doing what he does, they don't get that far. So to me, this is a no-brainer to me. The season he had was incredible, and I think he deserves the credit. To me, it's a no-brainer. I don't think that there's a debate about it, to be honest with you.
I don't think so either. Just to, we got a question from Jeremiah.
I was just about to pull that up.
Yeah, we can talking about how head coach wouldn't be able to hire his own assistants. I think there's with Calgary, they've shown in the past that they don't like spending money on head coaches. They don't. I don't know why, but for some reason they just don't want to do that, and they want coaches that can come in and they can control a little. They don't give them the autonomy that they should. I think you are right. It's an antiquated team building by the Flames in that aspect. It's been one of the biggest gripes by Flames fans about this ownership group and management group. How many head coaches have they gone through? And that was kind of my point there, is that you look at how many of those assistant coaches have been through basically, like Huska's been around. Huska and Jelena specifically have been around for like 3 coaches now, 4 coaches, because I think they were both around during Gullitson's era too. So you got Gullitson, Peters, Ward, and now Sutter.
I don't think Huska was on. I think Huska was down in was with the Stockton Heat, but I'll have to look that up.
took 3 or 4 coaches. Like it's time for a new. It's time for a blank slate for Daryl Sutter to bring in who he wants, in my opinion, and it's time for him to bring in people who have been around the league, not just in Alberta and not just part of the Flames organization. You need a fresh set of eyes.
Huska was the head coach of the Stockton Heat from 15 to 18, so he's been an assistant since 2019. Martin Jelena has been around for a long time. He's been part of that assistant coaching group for a long time. So that's a name that I find interesting. Huska is new,
but he's still been part of the Flames organization since 14-15.
Yeah, I just from what I've heard and what I have been able to glean, I don't think that Ryan Huska. I wouldn't think that Ryan Huska is a guy that they change. I think there's some people in that organization still very high on Ryan Huska so that I wouldn't suspect that he goes, but I could be wrong. But I do think they need some new voices. And when you're hiring coaches at a lower rate, there's not a lot of credibility especially when you're trying to, in a situation like Glenn Gulletson was trying to get back into the NHL. Maybe you don't have that same power. I do agree with Jeremiah that it's antiquated, but it's been the way that the Flames have run that organization for a few years.
Yeah, for like whether or not you're trying to get back, like you're not an established name or not, you should, as a head coach, you should have the full autonomy to hire the assistants that you want. So like when Travis Green came in, they went almost full sail change in terms of who they brought in. Like he brought up Nolan Baumgartner and with him from Utica, as well as I think Manny Holter was down there being some sort of skills coach at that time as well. And then they brought in Newell Brown because he was with the Canucks, went down to Arizona, I believe, and then came back up to the Canucks. Like he was a rookie coach, and he still got the ability to pick his assistant coaches. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that the Flames have made in trying to control their coaches and control and not be willing to give them the autonomy and willing to spend on them.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you at that at all. I agree with you, but it's gonna that will be interesting to see. But just also a reminder, when the Jeff Ward Daryl Sutter transition happened because of COVID, Sutter wasn't on the bench for a time, and it was Ryan Huska that was running the bench. So still the organization's still high on Ryan Huska. For sure. Yeah, and I think you can. I think he is someone that you look at keeping, but you still give Daryl the full carte blanche to make decisions he wants to make. Yeah, for sure. The other couple of other quick news. Oilers Twitter went off yesterday. And it wasn't because of my hot take about Andrew Mangiapane, Graham Moseman. It was because the Oilers signed Devin Shore to a 2-year contract. Well, Ken Holland should be fired. What the hell is he thinking?
Was that actually happening?
There were Oilers fans on Twitter that did not understand the signing of Devin Shore and could not believe that they would sign a player for 2 years, $1.7 million.
Well, it's $850K. It's under the was it 950K limit to. It's variable in the minors without any cap implications. It's also potentially something. He's a good depth fourth line player. If they're willing to give him a one-way contract and you can bury him in the minors, why does it matter?
I don't think I didn't understand. I brought it up. It is news to bring up, but it's not it was just the Oilers' reaction to that was. I
think the thing is the Oilers fans are on edge right now, as they should be. Like you got swept out of the first round by Winnipeg, who just subsequently got swept out of the second round by the Habs, and you're worried about what the future holds for players like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Let alone they have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to sign. Adam Larson needs a new deal. Tyson Barrie needs a new deal, and then it's just Drew Shore. It's a bit of a disappointment, and then they're on edge.
Yep, for sure. By the way, UC Parkella is handling the whistle duties this morning in Colorado, according to Mike Chambers as well. So that might be the guy running the bench if Jared Bednar is unable to go today. But I do hope he is, and I hope everything is okay. Where were you, Sean, on this day, June 10th, 2016?
2016? I have no idea. By the way, Kev, do you have your run-in music?
No. What is going on? Oh, look at
Hi,
this!
Kevin.
My gosh!
Where's my 2 beers that I'm smashing together?
Sorry, I
What's
didn't
going
see
on,
a
boys?
message that you were coming on. I'm sorry. We're having a great chat here in the chat.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, you came in at a right time. You came in at a perfect time.
Oh, as always do. Timing is on point.
Okay, Devin, who has the Twitter handle Gordhow09, will remember this. June 10th, 2016.
June 10th, 2016.
Come on, Devin.
I'm bad with dates, man. I'm not gonna lie. Does it have to do with the Flames?
No.
No. Okay.
It has to do with your who your handle is, your Twitter handle is.
Did he die on that day?
Yep.
That was today is the 5-year anniversary of Gord Howe's passing.
Man, oh man. Sad day.
I remember, I don't, this is my humble brag, which Devin tells me to do all the time anyway, that I need to do a little bit more often. But I was at Van Art's school. I was working in the morning. I was handing out flyers like the Metro at the SkyTrain station when I heard of this. They didn't have a sports guy. I ran in that morning, like right after I get up at 5 or something, 4:30, do my work shift, go in, pulled together I got to find the Gord Howe news clip, but I put together a Gord Howe clip that apparently nobody else, like there were some clips that nobody else could find that I found, and put together a pretty good sports story. So I'm just going to pat myself on the back there.
As you should. And talk about a loss. God, a hockey legend, the hockey dad. I know Walter is kind of branded that, Walter Gretzky, but in my mind, the hockey dad was Gordie Howe, considering that he had Mark, his 2 sons play with him. The other son's eluding my
Marty
memory.
and Mark.
Marty, thank you. Yeah. Died of Alzheimer's. That's close to Sean and our heart. Since our grandma died of Alzheimer's, I took care of her for 2 years, and it is a terrible disease. So there's a if there's anything that you guys could do for any type of research or anything like that, Alzheimer's is the one, because I know there's a lot of good causes out there, but watching it firsthand of someone you love degrade to a point where they don't remember you, it's hard. So Gordie Howe played 5 decades within his hockey career, and like you said, got to play with his 2 sons. So I just love the guy to death. And it's a very sad day 5 years ago today, for sure.
Now that I remember it, I do remember when I heard it. I was driving up to work. I was working at the airport at the time, and I honestly had to just sit in my car when I got to the parking lot and let it sort of settle in before I went into work, because it's just he's an icon and part of the fabric of hockey, of Canada, and it's just I was I've always been a bit of a hockey nerd, reading hockey history and everything, and yeah, it was you knew it was coming, but it still didn't make it any easier when that day came.
Maybe we should just backtrack because we got Devin on here. Let's get a few things. Should we go backwards here? Okay,
Sure.
So Devin, one of the conversations we were having, because the Vancouver Canucks hired some assistant coaches yesterday and updated their coaching staff, is I just pointed out that the Calgary Flames haven't, Daryl Sutter got in mid-season, so we have not seen or haven't heard if there's any assistant coaches changing there. I said I wouldn't be surprised. What are your thoughts? Do you see that happening?
I do. I see that there might be a change here or there. Daryl might want to bring in a couple of his own guys. I mean, you do have Ryan Huska there. He was the AHL coach for a few years before he got promoted to the big club of the Flames. So, I think there will be definitely some changes. I'm kind of curious on where Jelena stands within it all as well. I'd be kind of surprised if they move on from him. And then you also have Ray Edwards as well. So overall, I think he might want to bring in somebody, but he might just like who he has there. And that might have been a bit of a stipulation from Tree Living to keep especially Huska and Jelena on board with that coaching staff. I'm not too sure about Ray Edwards, but I could definitely see some changes.
We were saying I think the organization's high on Huska, but on the other side of that, I think Sutter may have some want. One of the things I wouldn't be surprised if Sutter had some say in wanting to bring in someone in eventually. So
yeah,
but we'll see. Gotta go back here. Is there anyone other than Connor McDavid that deserves the Hart Trophy?
No. I think that's pretty good consensus there all around. I mean, you can make arguments for the other guys, but overall, McDavid, it's like comes down to back when Crosby was at his prime and his peak, that why not we just give it to Sidney Crosby all the time, just because he is the heart and soul of that team, and if he's not there, then where's the team? So there's that whole argument and adage there. So I think it is hands down going to be Connor McDavid by a landslide.
Yeah. Your thoughts on the Islanders Tampa Bay series, or the Islanders Bruins series first of all, and then we'll get to the Islanders Tampa Bay.
You mean the Saints versus the Blues,
yeah.
or the Bruins? Sorry.
Let's go Saints.
Yeah, so good. How about you take that and fucking smoke it? Seriously, it's amazing. It is so. I'm so happy. I'm kind of adopting them as my team going forward, as far as cheering for a team. Sorry, Habs fans. I don't know if I can do it. I'm not gonna cheer for it, but I'll be happy if it happens for you. But I think having Barry Trotz and Barzal, that team is just such a. They're a team. They're a team. It's not one star doing it all. It's coming from all different angles. The defense are pitching in, and the forwards are doing well too. So, and I mean, you do have a great goaltending tandem with Sorokin and Varlamov back there too. So they're just such a likable team, especially with that fan base. So I know I might get a bit of shit online for wanting them to go far just because of the whole John Tavares thing. But
we don't need you.
Barzal's better. Yeah. So I'm happy, and fuck the Bruins. You know, I respect them so much as a hockey club and as an organization, but I can't stand them. I can't. They've just been such a thorn in Toronto's side. And I mean, that's something that Canucks fans can and I can relate to. Just because obviously 2011. So I'm happy to see it. I love the fact that Marchand doesn't get another chance at it, even though when he does play for Canada, you cheer for him, but otherwise go pound sand somewhere, because you're not liked around the hockey realm overall. So I personally don't see as far as the Bruins go in their offseason, I don't see that Tuukka Rask will be back. I have a feeling he won't, just because of the fan base. And I know it was more so Mike Milbury who last year in the bubble kind of threw him under the bus. But the Bruins fans haven't really been welcoming to him. When he's good, he's been really good. But I think that overall he won't want to go back to that organization within that capacity, because it kind of seems like they might be turning the corner here to figure out, okay, well, what are our next steps with our organization, with an aging Bergeron, with an aging Krejci. That is, if he's going to go back, I think he will, at a team-friendly deal. And Marchand's not getting older or younger either, so that's kind of their core, and start building around the Pasternaks of that organization. And I could definitely see, obviously, Jake DeBrusk on his way out too. I heard this morning that Edmonton would be a good landing spot for him, and I think so. I think that you kind of roll the dice if you're Peter, or once again, almost fucking did it. Ken Holland, not Peter Holland.
It's okay. I called Stephen Mayfield, Scott Mayfield this morning.
Well, it's the other way around, Kevin.
Yeah,
and it's the other way. So I attributed it to you, and I just did it again. So don't you feel?
Oh, good. I'm not the only one, Sean, no. Mr. Bolivier over there. I think that Ken Holland would. I think that'd be a good gamble for Ken Holland to bring him in, Jake DeBrusk, and see what he does up there, and if he can thrive around McDavid and Draisaitl, because he does have the skills. I just think that he just needs to change his scenery. So I guess that's kind of that's my synopsis of the Bruins offseason / the Islanders win. And it's going to be, what a good series is it going to be? Tampa Bay versus the Islanders. Oh my God. I love it. I love it.
Did you see our poll question that we had? Who would you rather have as your head coach for the Canadian Olympic team? John Cooper or Barry Trotz?
Barry Trotz. I'm sorry. I think John Cooper. I think he is a good coach. I think he's a little overrated though, because of the talent that he's surrounded by.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
Would you play for Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz if it meant that you had to shave your beard?
I mean, I would have to get at least a shaving bonus of $500,000.
A shaving bonus. That's a new one.
Oh yeah, I fuck it. To play NHL hockey, I'd do anything.
You mentioned Tuukka Rask. If he's not in Boston, does he go back to where he was drafted?
Oh God, maybe.
You go with Jack Campbell and Tuukka Rask as your goaltender duo next year in Toronto.
I would love that. I would absolutely love that. And then that's definitely a possibility. You know that Dubas will be looking at that for sure, because he's got to round out that. I don't think Anderson's going to be back there. I think that he's going to find somewhere else to go, especially with the criticism, especially with just the amount of success that he has had there. I think that he a change of scenery would do him well, and I don't think that Dubas and the Toronto Maple Leafs will be able to pay for him and to get him back, considering they want to. I think they should be going after another defenseman and to help that forward roster out a little bit more too. So, Tuukka Rask isn't going to be cheap either, but I think if you sell him on the fact that he will have a tandem as good as he had this year and the last year with Halak, I think it'll be beneficial for him, but who the hell knows? I would love to see it.
Jeremiah brings up something here, just to go with the Islander Tampa series. I think he makes a good point, and I do wonder if they are the new villains, the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's people like Dougie Hamilton are bent about Tampa being $18 million over the cap. You have the cap circumvention issue. You have a team that won the Stanley Cup last year, and if they win again, this starts to kind of be in dynasty territory, depending on your definition of dynasty. They might be the villains here. They might be the new To quote a wrestling term here, they might be the heels of the semifinals. Montreal will be probably a fan favorite for a lot of Canada. Vegas will be a fan favorite.
I'm like, or not.
Yeah, or not. That's true. Montreal could be heel.
There is no such thing as Canada's team in hockey.
Well, I totally agree. I don't think that you are not. I'm just going to say this as a Canadian, you are not required or expected to cheer for the Montreal Canadiens. I think that is ridiculous. I didn't cheer for the Oilers in 2006. Most of Canada didn't cheer for Vancouver in 2011.
That's when it died.
And nobody remembered. Justin Trudeau had to encourage people to watch the Ottawa Senators in their cup run a couple of years ago. And hell, people in Ottawa weren't even going to the games in Ottawa during that playoff run. So nobody's obligated to cheer for the Montreal Canadiens in Canada. I'll just say that. I am cheering for. I'm hoping personally. I'm kind of objective, but I mean, I would like to see the Canadiens win. But here, there. Everybody has a right to cheer for who they want, and it's just. I think this Canada's team is a myth.
It is. And have you guys talked about the whole CN Tower bullshit that happened?
Well, we said that you were not here yesterday because you were angry about it.
It was either you were angry about that or angry that Kevin brought up the Mark Stone trade again.
Yeah, it was one of the two. Hey,
about beating a dead horse,
by the way, Devin, you would be appreciative, though. I said that I think Flames fans need to let go of that trade.
Absolutely, they do. Like, there's no guarantee that he would have signed there, and everything looks like that. Even if we did get him, that he wouldn't have signed with us as a UFA. And what a waste that would have been. A Valimaki, a Dubé, and a first and a second or something like that. I can't remember what it was. I know Valimaki was a part of that in rumor. So no. Yeah.
Anyway. So CN Tower, yes,
the CN Tower. Like what in the right mind, or who in the right mind did that? Honestly, that is the stupidest thing ever. And the CN, the CN base is actually in Montreal, and they say that the CN Tower is a Canada, company. It's not just a Toronto company. And it's like, well, do you know where you are? Do you know the passionate hockey fans that are in Toronto and cheer for Toronto? I don't live in Toronto, but what the fuck? Like, seriously, give your head a shake, whoever had that stupid idea.
Could you imagine the Calgary Tower being lit up in orange and blue?
Man, the Calgary Tower would be burned down. Like, honestly, man, I can't even. No.
Yeah, that was just I like if you had done it as a bet and you sold it as that, I can see that. But that they sold it as congratulations and here you go, and it's like, no, they're your most hated rivals.
Yep.
Like
we
talk about what the lack of rivalries in sports. Feed into it. Build it more.
At the same time, all of Canada is expected to color their towers and their lights Raptor colors and Blue Jay colors when they're going really well. And I don't think we should have to do that.
Well,
Bless you.
Sorry, coughing. Well, that has a bit of a different vibe to it because there's only one team in Canada for both baseball and basketball. So I can understand that kind of.
Why should I have to cheer for the?
You don't have to do a damn thing. You don't have to do a damn thing. But like that,
I'm going to color my house when the Mariners go on a playoff run in 3032. I'm coloring my house in Mariner blue.
Beautiful. Good.
Yeah, in the 3000s.
When they figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it's just the adage that there's only one team, and so they have to be Canada's team. But you can cheer for them whatever the hell you want. just as long as you're not cheering for an opposite country when we go to the Olympics. That's where I draw the line.
Jeremiah has one question. Hey, hockey podcast. When is the new stadium done for the Flames?
It's
Is it
currently on
2024?
hold. Yeah, the original timeline was for spring 2024, so the 24-25 season. But there's been some issues with budgeting, and it's on hold right now. So I don't know how far back that's going to push it.
Well, they're still going ahead. I drove past there the other day. They're still going ahead with making the parking lot. So that's still going, which is good. Well, a place to park.
Mm-hmm. I'm still sad that they had to knock down the corral. We were talking. We shared our video talking about old barns, and that's a good old barn that was never really appreciated in Calgary for what it was, and for all the I was never able to, and I'm still kicking myself for it. But when the Hitmen went and played a bunch of games there, it had a good feeling, and that's one of the things I wish the Hitmen would do is go like. I wish they would have been able to keep the corral and have the Hitmen play out of there all the time, or find a way to get a slightly smaller arena for the Hitmen to play out of, because it would add so much more atmosphere, because the dome is great for for NHL hockey and great for like the teddy bear toss nights, but if you could just shrink it down and fill that lower bowl for Hitman games, it would just be so much more fun, as well as the lacrosse, the Roughnecks as well.
Yeah, I mean, living in Kamloops for a while there, you see the Sandman Center, and that place, small arena, but you can pack it in. It just, for junior hockey, that smaller environment just creates a different feel.
It definitely does. Well, and if they did do that, I played there a couple times, the corral, before they tore it down, and if you get hit along those boards, there's zero give. Talk about an old school barn that hurts, then you get punished when you're against those boards. So yeah, that would be something they would have to had changed. But of course, I
remember when we had the plebiscite about the Olympics, and part of the Olympic bid was to build a smaller arena, and that could have been it, and that would have been great, because hockey and sports. I think if we've learned anything about hockey and sports among during these last 14, 15 months, is fans and atmosphere are huge. We can watch all the high-end sports we want without fans, and it's great to a certain extent, but look at the Islanders. Look at Nassau Coliseum. Look at Vegas, Colorado, Tampa. Even Montreal with 2,500 fans just feels different. It adds that emotion, that raw feel, and it just I miss it. I miss going to live hockey. I miss going to live events and just feeling that energy.
What's the situation with the Euro? Is there going to be fans in the stands there?
Oh, don't know. Let's see here.
Meanwhile, Jeremiah says again, it's not happening. That's all we have on the radio here in Alaska. The Mariners aren't doing it anytime soon. Yes, that's why I said the year 3000. The Mariners have the longest North American professional sports drought of not making the playoffs. It has been since 2001 that they have not made the playoffs.
Yeah. All right. So with the Euros, we are going to be able to see fans in the stands at those games. It may not be a full. I saw that for all the games at Wembley, there will be you'll have to show that you've been vaccinated. So we should see some good fans and some chanting. And speaking of a sport where the fans are part of the spectacle, and that's football, that's footy, that's soccer, like that's part of it. The chanting, the singing, the streamers, the smoke, the vuvuzelas, like it's got the fans are half the spectacle with some of these games.
Yeah, and that's where, just to bring it back to hockey here, That's where the Islanders fans have adopted that soccer mentality too, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so tonight we've got Colorado with or without Jared Bednar scheduled. I'm going to use the word scheduled because you never know with COVID, you never know. But hopefully it's expected Game 6, Colorado and Vegas. Devin, if you missed it, Jared Bednar not at the morning skate this morning due to COVID irregularities. So
that's a new one.
Yeah, that's the wording.
Yeah. Something's up with one of his tests is what it is.
Yeah.
COVID irregularity.
COVID test irregularity, I think, is what they said.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So,
all right.
So what we've been doing, and the reason we've been Iron Humanine podcast in here is, of course, we've been trying to do series wraps-ups, and we've had the wrap-up of the Islanders Tampa Bay. We had the wrap-up of Islanders Bruins, Tampa Bay, Carolina. And if the series is over tomorrow, we'll come back and wrap it up. If not, if this goes through Game 7, we're back Sunday, and then we bring in Tyler, we bring in Chris. We have a whole gang of us that we can come join us on Sunday morning. We have a quick question here again. Quick question, Jeremiah. Who's your Norris winner? He said Hedman. We also. I don't think that this is, to me, this is the no-brainer. It is Hedman, but I said I would not be surprised if Adam Fox is closer in this balloting than people think, because he's from New York. Because I think that there's a Calder snub, I think, conversation in there. But to me, this is a no-brainer. It's Victor Hedman all the way for me.
Yeah, it's Victor Hedman for me. It's both Fox and Makar both had really good seasons, but I just look at the impact that Victor Hedman has both at the offensive and defensive side of ends of the rink, and it may not have been his best season, and this may have been you can make the argument that it might have been a reputation nomination, but he's still I think he's still worthy of it, and I still think he's worthy of winning it again.
Yeah, it's Hedman for me too. I think that you if I got to go against Kevin, I think Makar is a bit ahead of Fox, to be honest with you. And I think that if there was going to be a surprise, I think it would be Makar over Fox to win it as far as those two go. But yeah, Hedman, it's kind of been proven that, the veteran, whoever is the veteran of these big awards like the Selke and the Calder, or not the Calder, but
Norris.
The Norris, thank you. Then that those are the guys who are going to usually get it, and before the younger guys have to get nominated a few times before they get their actual chance to win. So it'll be Hedman for me.
What I was saying though is it's not that I think that Fox is better than Makar. I think in terms of votes, I think some voters will vote Fox over Makar. Yeah.
Mm.
I think what I said, Dev, is I think this is with both Fox and Makar getting nods. I think we're starting to see people look more into the analytics side of things, and getting the offensive offensively minded defensemen a little more due with this. But I think so. I just hope that we start recognizing the defensive defensemen more as well, because we talked about Jacob Slavin getting the Lady Byng nomination. I want to see someone like him get a Norris Trophy nomination here soon, because I don't think people defensive defensemen do not get the due that they deserve in hockey right now. And as much as the analytics, you can make arguments about analytics, I'm still of the belief that I don't think they show defensive play properly enough, in my opinion, than it does with the offensive side. So I think I like the nominations, but hopefully in the future we start seeing people recognize how important and how valuable players like Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesce, Chris Tanev are to teams, and give them some Norris votes, because I don't know, maybe it's just my bias, because I was more of a defensive defenseman when I played, and I just want to see see them get their due.
Right. Well, let's wrap it up there. How do we follow everyone?
I am Beardy Connect 03 on Twitter.
I am Gordy Howe or Gord Howe 09 on Twitter. Not Gordy, Gord.
Gord Howe. KEV. Tyler's TNOBLE. Chris is Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. KEVOLE is me. Podcast_hockey. Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast. YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast. We leave that there. If you like this video and you like anything that we have, like it, share it, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. If Vegas wins tomorrow, we're back tomorrow to recap that series. If it goes through Game 7, we're back Sunday morning, 11 Pacific, 12 o'clock Mountain. We will talk to you all. Thanks, everyone. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.